This is John Lay. Welcome and good afternoon, and thank you for attending the part 10 of 10 of our weekly webinar series. We just did 10 weeks in a row. There's a whole bunch of you that have been following along just about every single week, and that is fantastic. Thanks for whoever answered there. I appreciate that. That you can see the screen. So some people have been following along for all 10 weeks, and that is great. And we've covered a lot of territory in those weeks. By far, today's our biggest attendance yet, so we keep on getting rolling thunder as we go. And so I'll take just a half step back to introduce myself and Talented Learning for all those people that are new, and then we'll jump right into social learning and the extended enterprise. So I'm John Lay. I'm the co-founder and CEO and lead analyst, a lot of titles there for Talented Learning. We're a new extended enterprise news research and consulting firm that was founded here earlier in 2014. I myself and my co-founder each have a master's degree in instructional technology and 20 years of e-learning experience, and personally I have 13 years of selling high-end learning management systems. So I've been a student of requirements and a student of extended enterprise for longer than I can imagine. So we decided to co-found Talented Learning to be independent learning technologists or learning technology analysts. So lots of the analysts that we know and have been around for decades in our industry are so focused on integrated talent management issues that they've really forgotten about the extended enterprise. And we'll talk about what the extended enterprise is today and social learning. But on our side of the fence, we have a completely different task than training your internal employees. And so what Talented Learning does is that we research vendors, we research the technology, we collect case studies and analyze case studies and talk to clients and determine the best practices associated with extended enterprise learning. And then we have a weekly blog that you've been attending or reading, hopefully, and a weekly webinar where we share our findings. Well, so far in 2014, we've reviewed 62 LMSs. When I say reviewed, that means that we've had executive conversations, we get the briefing, we see demonstration, we take the keys and we drive it ourselves, and we catalog what we find in terms of features and functionality. And so it's hard to go anywhere inside the industry right now and not hear about social learning and what exactly is that, and what exactly is that in LMSs. And so we decided to find out. So across all these 60-some LMSs, we started collecting all the LMS requirements that we saw every vendor put forth of features and functionalities that they had. And when I collected them all up, I mean, it was a huge jumbly mess of all kinds of different features that were considered quote-unquote social. And so that makes it really hard for analysts to understand the industry, but I think even more so from vendors to try to figure out where to fit in, and buyers to figure out what they really need and what is out there. So today's presentation is all about trying to simplify that, and after much to-do and effort, I was able to group those different LMS social features by my own grouping, and probably not perfect, but able to group those into 4 different buckets of levels of functionality. Some vendors have none of those levels, some vendors have all of those levels, but I think by the end of today you'll see from the most basic to the highest level, or the pushing the envelope levels of what's out there in the industry, and you'll have some good ideas of how building communities is key to extended enterprise learning. And so though none of I'll show 8 different examples or 8 different vendors here threaded throughout the discussion and what their interfaces look like and some of their feature set. None of this is a paid advertisement or anything like that. These are just great examples of companies and folks that I've met here over the last year that kindly provided me with screenshots here that we can use for today's presentation for illustrative purposes. And all of us, I think, will get a little bit smarter. If you want to ask questions, please do. Put them in the Q&A box. I run a tight ship here around not a lot of resources, so I check the Q&A box here every 10 or 15 minutes or so. The webinars are always targeted at 30 minutes here for the last 9 and this one. I do get to talking, and it may slide over a little bit just because we have so much good information to show you today. So thank you very much, and here we go. So what is extended enterprise learning? Well, my definition is it's any training or learning that's targeted toward your non-employee audiences. So training your employees is one thing. Training everybody else is another matter. And so from a corporate perspective, it could be training your channel, your distributors, your agents, any of your resellers, value-added resellers, your customers, or your prospects. So it's training all these different user groups to some end, and we'll talk about what those ends are in a second. Or it could be associations or other member-based organizations where it's exactly that. It's your members, but you're not training your employees. It's all about attracting and training people that are not your employees. For-profit training companies and continuing education providers have the exact same issue. They're creating training that needs to engage users, but they don't have that ability just to tell anybody to do it. In fact, you need to buy to have the right to take this training. The public sector does the exact same thing, from providing education out to train first responders to returning veterans to the families of veterans or our soldiers that are deployed at any given time. Workforce development, another big public sector extended enterprise learning. And of course, the academic outreach from universities, and now with massive online open courses, MOOCs, are also now is all part of the extended enterprise umbrella that we cover at Talented Learning, and how we define all these groups are separate. But what they do have in common is that they all have voluntary users. You must attract and retain and get them to come back again and again if you have any success in extended enterprise learning. So as a result, the field of extended enterprise learning is a combination of marketing, e-commerce, and learning all wrapped up into one. So it's no longer good enough with your extended enterprise to be focused just on your learning management system or the terminology or instructional design. You need the other aspects that are critical in a business in your skill set to become effective or to be effective in extended enterprise learning. And the reason why you want to do this and why organizations do this is extended enterprise learning technology is a strategic differentiator. If you're a channel or a value-added reseller to technology companies and you have HP and you also have Dell products that you can sell, for example, to your local customers, and one provides you certification and training and performance support and the ability to interact with peers, and the other one doesn't, in the heat of the sales moment, you always choose what you know best as a salesperson. And so organizations build these communities to make them better aware citizens of their corporate extended enterprise so that they represent the brand better and they sell better. And so it has a measurable impact. And so building key communities is key in extended enterprise learning. It's not in internal employees. It's hard to find internal organizations that provide real measurable use case scenarios or measurable benefits of training or development in general, let alone social learning. But on our side of the fence, we can measure all training. We can measure the impact of social learning, and it's being done right now. I'll show you some of that. So being on the extended enterprise side of the fence is by far the preferred side to be on in terms of budgets, access to budgets, and just the level of learning technology, because if you can't compel your users, well, then you have to engage them and make them want to attend. And now all the great stuff of extended enterprise learning comes true, and learner engagement. So at first blush, all of us that grew up in the employee world, we think that we've got the heavy task over on this side of the scale. But in reality, all we have to do is tell our employees that they have to take assigned content by this particular time. Content is due, and based on your job or your description, you have to take it. And if you don't take it, you're fired. So guess what? I don't care how engaging it is or how boring it is, because you still have to take it at the end of the year, and my budgets are limited, so I can't make it gamified and cool. But it is going to be on the corporate LMS, and you're already on the network and you know how to get onto that LMS, and we have no idea how to use social technology, so we're not going to do it. The last thing we want to do is increase the time that you're socializing versus actually getting work done. And so I find that's the employee learner point of view inside the industry, inside a lot of companies in the world. But actually outweighing that, from my perspective, it's extended enterprise learners, because they've got to perceive the value. They've got to open up their wallet and buy. They've got to come back. They have more than one choice. You can buy continuing medical education credits from multiple sources. You can join multiple associations that tailor to the same professional group. So it's the association or the training provider or the channel organizer that has to make it compelling so that you want to choose them versus another. And they come in on unknown access points, on different devices, on tablets, on Macs and PCs, and you don't know where they're coming from. So your content also has a different degree of availability that it needs to maintain. And so EE learners need social learning. It's not just a nice to have, it's really a have to have inside the extended enterprise. And so what is social learning technology? To take another half step back here. So I think if you just build it like this, it makes sense what we're actually talking about. So everybody, people from the teeniest babies to old people, learn through observation, imitation, and modeling. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. As you watch anything from apes learn to, if you have children, it's impossible to refute this statement. Well, social learning is the process of participating with others to actually do that learning. So as opposed to sitting in a corner reading a book by yourself, you're actually engaging, whether that's with or with technology is immaterial, but you're engaging with others to facilitate that learning process. Well, about 10 years ago, or whenever that was, in the last decade or so, social media evolved, and now all of us are in social media, from Facebook to Twitter to Pinterest to LinkedIn. You know, many of us are in multiple social networks where we create, we share content, and we network with people of similar or complementary mindsets to ourselves. Maybe not, but usually complementary mindsets to ourselves. Well, social learning technology combines these first three bullets. So you're bringing users into a learning environment, but you're also giving them the ability to create and share content and network. And so it's combining the two ideas, peanut butter and chocolate, so to speak, to provide it. But what's different is that you can provide, or it provides, tracking and reporting. So if you just go to LinkedIn or you just go to Facebook, sure, they might be reporting internally on your activities online and what your interests are so they can market to you, but it's not tied with really what other users can see unless you actually join groups or participate, and then they can see your activity from that standpoint. But there's no reporting or measurement that you can see, how often is John interacting with this particular group. It's real hard to get a view except if you dig into that particular group. But the tracking and reporting that's natural in a learning management system facilitates that. And so in extended enterprise learning, we are pushing the envelope on our side of driving EE and EE social and the measurement of EE social as a key fundamental tenet of how we do business. And I say we as I see myself justly or unjustly as an ambassador to the vendor community, spending so long, 13 years in the vendor community. I like to try to be the ambassador here of framing it out and speaking for the industry on the advances that we are making, especially in terms of extended enterprise. So what do you need for extended enterprise social learning technology? So all this sounds well and good, but at the end of the day, you have to get budget, and there has to be money coming from somewhere. So what do you actually need? So you need a learning management system. Why a learning management system? Well, then you can combine it with formal knowledge. You keep a record of all through time of what somebody does or interacts with the system, but more importantly, it's measurable. If you just provide a social network out there and it's not measurable, it's not tied to actually moving the needle in your business in some way, then it's a nice to have and it's not a have to have. The minute that you tie social learning or extended enterprise to measurable business results, to changing behavior of your channel or your customers, prospects, or members, then you need to measure that to be able to prove your success, to benchline where you are now and where you're going. And the only way you can do that on a global basis is a learning management system. So you need one of those. You need a learning management system that has the integrated social collaboration tools to create, share, and network, as we talked about screen previous here. And so they can come in all different kinds of shapes and flavors, as we'll talk about, and you need a measurable business case. If you're armed with these three things, you're ready for social learning technology, because you'll get all the benefits and you'll actually be able to measure your impact. So what is this business impact of building an EE community and social learning inside your extended enterprise? Well, number one, it's all about making money. So from a corporate perspective, we want to increase our channel partner sales, and any tool that we can provide that moves the needle, that they sell more, we sell more. And so increasing channel partner sales is critical. There's also the, from a customer standpoint, for example, or an association member standpoint, there's the ability to measure the value or perceived value on the renewals, upgrades, cross-sells of users. So if you measure, which is easy to do, a user that has, or a customer, for example, that has or hasn't taken training, and compare them, you can draw some parallels or assumptions on the impact of that training. And if you compare 50,000 or 100,000 customers and their training habits, that argument becomes more precise and more clear to predict it and measure. The same thing goes with social learning. And so you can tell if all things are remaining equal, you can use the variable of their participation or non-participation in social learning and see how their metrics are impacted in the business. And so all that's about making money. And then the new wave is to just charge for access to your social network. So whether that's charging to your LMS or your LMS combined with your social networks, but it's generating a regular membership fee that allows you to have an ongoing snowballing revenue generator. So your extended enterprise training department is a money maker and not just a cost center, but you also have the advantage of saving money with your social networks. And that's improving learner engagement. So once again, we know that if we improve the engagement and the learning efficacy of our products and services to our extended enterprise, we're going to change behaviors and we're going to have a measurable impact on the business. And so social learning, just by its nature and definition, is going to allow people to interact and learn better and learn longer. But the other thing it does is that it's a continuous stream of touch. So if you look at it from a marketing perspective, if you wanted to keep on touching your user bases, how do you do that? Do you spend Super Bowl advertisements? Do you run ads on Google or on the industry rags? It's real hard to touch, and you have to hope that your users are reading that. But if you can get them to join your community, and you have now a social community of your extended enterprise, no matter what that is, you have the advantage of that continuous touch. So you can post a video here or share an article there or announce about new classes or new products or new global expansion or new feet on the street, and use that continuing touch to be able to change and keep yourself in front of your user's mind. And that's invaluable. And if you try to add it up from a marketing dollar perspective, there's just no other way that you can get the bang for your buck to reach and continually reach your users than you can without building this social environment. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a social training environment, but once you combine the two, then it becomes measurable. It also gives you the ability to crowdsource. So I belong, as now a new business owner, I'm buying software products, I'm tying them together all the time. I'm wearing many hats, as many entrepreneurs do, as I tie WordPress with my CRM system and so forth. And so I got to figure out how to do all these things. Well, I go right to the user communities. I ask inside the customer communities. I get answers quicker than I would from going to technical support. And I use these communities as a litmus of whether I even want to buy the software or subscribe to the software, because I know I'm going to have technical difficulties just by the nature of my blockheadedness. So crowdsourcing is a way to cut down on not only your costs from a customer service standpoint, but it also allows customers to become proficient quicker, to be happier, to once again go and make money because they're going to renew their thing. It also allows you to decrease the training cost by being able to constantly to touch them. And so it also allows you to shorten cycle times. And so for new product releases or expansion into new geographic areas or even performance support, for users that are out in the field that aren't your employees, that need it right on the spot, from accessing, for example, Augment. I saw an example recently where you can take a picture with your phone that goes right to a product page that essentially has the product, the features and benefits that you need, but at the same time the social learning piece is integrated right into there, so you can access an expert from the company or from within the broader social network and do all this in real time as you're actually in a sales example. So these are the benefits that people get from building communities, or organizations get from building communities. And so it's widely known, though I haven't verified this yet, but it's like one of those numbers everybody says, but the 600 different LMSs inside the industry. And granted, there's a lot of them. I don't know if there's quite 600, but there's quite a few of them. And I've spent some exercises, some cycles here in 2014 to group them into the different types of LMSs that I've seen, from the talent suite providers, the big standalones with no performance management, the whole new wave of cloud LMSs, industry LMSs that are just targeted to one niche, functional LMSs that are targeted towards a business problem like customer education or channel education. And then you see social LMSs, next generation LMSs, e-commerce LMSs. I mean, there's a lot, but it's hard if you ask all 600 or whatever that number is, do you have social learning in your platform? You're going to get a yes. And you're going to get a yes from every single one of them, regardless of the degree. So it's up to you as a customer to really define what you actually need and use that as part of your screening criteria, or you can waste a lot of cycles in qualifying vendors. And so that's what we tried to do for you here on this webinar. So we put it into 4 groups: introverts, minimalists, connectors, and extroverts. And these are the 4 layers that make up the overall global feature set in our estimation. So the introverts, I probably shouldn't even cover the introverts except to make this point, and that not all LMS vendors have true social features, or they won't necessarily admit that, but it's not because they don't want to, it's just because their client base isn't asking for it, and just the type of opportunities they're competing in isn't a relevant selection criteria. And so many organizations have treaded water to see how this turns out and have not added social features to their LMS. Many clients don't want their clients or their employees wasting time. And however, the group of introverts continues to get smaller and smaller, in my opinion, because the older generation LMSs, even if they resisted it in the past, are now becoming late adopters of it. They realize that even if it's just a checkbox requirement, that they can say, yes, I have it to get through that stage of the sales cycle so that they can compete in the business that they're winning in. They're just adding that feature set. But it's not necessarily integrated, or it's not integrated, and it's not anything social. It's more of a one-way push of announcements or email notifications or RSS feeds taken very loosely. You could say, yes, I have social features, and then it's up to the client or the prospect to ask the next questions of, oh yeah, how social is that? But the next group are what I call the minimalists. And the minimalists are, I think, the minimal feature set that an LMS needs to have about creating and sharing content and networking to be called a social LMS, or to have social LMSs. I don't think, by the way, I forgot to make this point on the last slide, I don't think social LMS is actually a type of LMS, because everybody has it. I really believe it's a feature set that, and how well it's integrated into your LMS is really what the big differentiator is that feature set. But the core feature set has been around for about a decade. I remember a long time ago talking about coffee shops in our product. I remember 15 years ago, even in Click to Learn, where we had discussion forums that were tied to courses. And so we've been talking about it a long time. It's a feature set that not necessarily was used in the past. It's one that's been rebranded here in the last few years to use more modern words like blog and wiki as opposed to the old-fashioned. But it's typically was always about extending learning out of the classroom. So with training facilitators or instructors, and working with the group that took a particular class, or groups that take a particular class, so that you can share knowledge and ask questions. Lots of LMSs have this feature. It's less about peer-to-peer collaboration, that's important, And it's typically always a separate tab or a separate place in the LMS. So you're going to go to your collaboration or to my groups or to my communities of practice, but it's not necessarily just a part of your LMS workflow. And I think that was always the problem with LMSs, is that they had this, but it's always separate. And organizations, LMS vendors are continuing to get better at bringing the two together, but it's a separate tab. Here are the synonyms for this: discussion boards, thread discussion, collaboration groups, communities of interest, user groups, blog posts. These are basically all the same thing, of different variations. But let me show you a few. So the Talent LMS, a nice company out of Athens, has a very straightforward feature set that's been around LMSs forever. You have a discussion group, you have a list of questions. The originator, in this case myself, this is an LMS that I'm reviewing right now, and so it's timely here just to try this out. But you put in a question, anybody that's perusing the question or list of questions can answer, you can answer back. It doesn't get any more straightforward than that. If you go to Docebo, a nice company out of Italy and now North America, that makes one of the finer cloud-based LMSs. They also have straightforward functionality. They don't call it discussion forums. They just call it blog in this case. And it's not a blog like WordPress where you have templates or the ability to do a lot of advanced things. It's just like a thread discussion group. You're putting in your text and you're allowing people to comment back on it. In this case, they have things like, is it helpful, is it not, is the content rated or not, the ability to provide comments. Here's Crowd Wisdom. This is Digital Ignite. These guys are out of Chicago, I believe, or around Chicago area. They're an exciting company, in my opinion, from an extended enterprise standpoint. They really focus on associations and channel and customer education. Here's an example with one of their physician organizations, and it shows you here they can explore the forums. So still a list of forums as we've seen in other things, but look one side once you're in a forum right now, you have welcome messages, it's tracking enrollment, your participation, it's showing you the top discussions that's going on. You can have advertisements or marketing tiles over here, integrate polls. You can view discussions, start discussions. So it's still just like a blog or a thread discussion, but it's really on steroids. It's showing, kind of creating a whole little community around this particular topic. But if you do notice, the catalog of training events is over here, and the discussion tab is over here. So it still is kind of in a separate place to some degree for each one of these threaded discussion topics. So this is BrightWave. This is a new organization from the UK, the southern UK here that I've met, England, that I've met recently. They're a training company that's really big on social communities as part of learning. They make an LMS called the Tesselo LMS, and you see very similar to Digital Ignite. They have that concept of the news feed share. You can see that my icon on the top of who I'm logged into. I can see my other communities if I had more than one here. I can look at owners or members, and I can collaborate. I can still like things, rate things. So another nice example of taking that, just that regular discussion group and do it. But that's that minimum. You need these communities of some sort to start building your social learning. But there's a whole group of LMS vendors that are the late adopters, and they're also the new cloud-based providers that said, why should we reinvent the wheel here? We should just connect to social networks versus investing our limited research and development funds to build our own. And I have to admit, I think it's a very valid argument, and I have a hard time discerning who's a connector and who is a native builder in some of the best LMSs. And I actually think it doesn't matter because it's all about how well it's integrated. It's all about how well it's integrated. If you can integrate it seamlessly and tightly into the learning experience, I guess it doesn't really matter who builds it, though the connectors have some of the challenges of not integrated reporting and just different parts of the workflow that since it's a different product, it's not going to be as tight that is if you build it yourself. And the theory also goes that you have too many social networks already. So I already have too many social networks. I can't keep up with everything. So I let Facebook slide because that's personal. I keep up on LinkedIn. I try to keep up on Twitter. But if I go into my LinkedIn profile, I think I'm following 31 groups right now. And to some degree or another, at one point in time, those 31 were all important to me. But now there's too many groups. But since they're all in LinkedIn together, I can still get updates in my news feed and on my phone, even though that I'm not actively going into each one of these things. But if you have a network that's somewhere else, like within the LMS, you're asking users that in addition to all these social media networks that they belong to in their personal and professional life, they also have to go to a fifth or a sixth place, which is your learning management system. And depending on how compelling you are, that could be a very easy or a very tough proposition. I think a lot of organizations find it to be a tough proposition, and as a result, they feel that the social learning is not working in their organization. And so the way that you can kind of defeat that is to leverage off of what's already out there. So some organizations already have corporate social networks like Yammer, Bloomfire, and you can just tie into those. And I'll tell you how the tie-in works here in a second. Or you can get a LinkedIn group. So if you've already been building a LinkedIn group, tying that to your LMS, in my opinion, is far superior than building anything yourself, because as mentioned before, they're already in LinkedIn anyway, and it's a known platform. So leveraging that through LinkedIn or SharePoint or Twitter's APIs or Facebook's APIs is as simple as asking for the API key, which is a big credit card looking number, and you copy and paste that into a field in the LMS, and voila, they're linked together. And that's real powerful with the connectors. They can do that with a variety of different social tools and just different cloud-based tools. And the last is really the integrators that are taking a third-party tool and tying it in. And so what are some of the features? It's account creation, populating profile data, single sign-on, because this is really important, because if it's your extended enterprise, you're not getting an HRIS feed of who these users are. They could be anybody, roaming around the entire world. So you have to get them to sign up. Well, that's a big pain. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to do the double verification, but if you can just sign in with your social profile, now you have a chance of letting them peruse your content and capturing some of their data that you can always expand later. It also provides, by linking in with these networks, provides all the post and see and follow and join groups and comment and like and share and all the things that we're used to doing in those different platforms. But it also ties for the extended enterprise motivation and completion, because you can post course enrollments and completions and certifications owned, and also share your gamification status and awards that you've achieved along the way to try to elicit similar responses from your peers or competitors. So here's an example, Talent LMS. Simple as this. Log on with social media, you can join their LMS. Accord out of Boise, Idaho, a real nice LMS company that's been around here for a few years, but has uniquely created a really nice platform at a super low price point. And so they really are a great LMS for anybody that's certainly entering into the marketplace, but it's not like scant featured, and they've got some real nice integrated connector social features, and you can see how this particular user can get a real nice snapshot on all their social engagements. And this is accessible right from the main interface, so they've tied it into their interface, into their integrated interface, making it really nice. They provide, see these nice connector LMSs, they provide data that's hard to build in an LMS, or you got to take the time to build it, and you can't build everything. There's limited funds and money, but they have these nice dashboards that they can look at the blogs or the different forums or different modules, and you see who's interacting, how they're interacting. It's very Google Analytics nice stuff. Badges. Everybody is now adding badges. This is Docebo. Badges are like you earn points. It's the gamification stuff. You earn points, and then points can be earned towards badges, and then you have multiple badges. You can move up in levels, and you have leaderboards and things like that. So it's a way to engage learners, but without social learning, gamification is nothing, because it is the integration with the social pieces of notifying and streaming that information to other users that provides the value. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot of value in just the pure gamification piece. Just some more from Docebo there. Oop, going the wrong way. So here's Growth Engineering. They are a company out of the UK. They've doubled down on social and gamification, and this shows you what their leaderboard looks like, a nice attractive interface here. We'll talk about it. And lastly, we have the social LMS experts. They build it, and wow, do they build it. It's got the power of the connectors, but it's so integrated and it's so part of the workflow that it truly blurs the line between what is social and what is learning. These examples here are some of the best examples that I've seen out in the industry. You don't buy these LMSs if you've got a bunch of electricians that don't use social media, or you have I don't know, any I think non-professional group that's just doing compliance training or internal employee training. They wouldn't buy these extrovert LMS systems or these extrovert features. You're pretty much choosing one of these LMSs or these type of feature sets because this is germane to your either extended enterprise or your core business. And so social learning is just incorporated. You can't tell where it stops and where it starts, but it provides you all the tools that allow it to be measurable and combined with training. So not just measurable like how many times did somebody log into this blog, but measurable that how many times somebody logged into this blog combined with courses they consumed or didn't consume may put them in a group that you market a certain way to, for example. So this is where it really gets measurable and provides some great features. Some of the features that you'll see, the most important one is this unified user interface where, as I said, it blurs the line. But it's training communities, it's got the news feed, dashboards and gamifications, all the way integrated. It's tied not only there, but through the mobile app access on both Apple and Android. They bring virtual classrooms and chat into it. They have intra-content, social features, which I'll show you in just a second. Things can be tied to programs, integrated with the reward system. So this is the full-blown stuff right here. Here's Brightwave. Again, look at that. Isn't that pretty? That's a nice interface there. Very Windows 8 centric here, tying to communities. Nice little new banners here on different content that's coming in. They've got their reputation and their points and tying with most popular content. Customers have bought this, also bought this. So it doesn't look like a traditional LMS by any sense. Here's Saba's version of the same thing. So Saba, about 3 or 4 years ago, doubled down on social learning and cloud, rewritten their application from the ground up, and the result of it is probably the most advanced LMS that's out there that I've reviewed. It is streamlined, powerful, 100% cloud-based, but everything. This is their main interface, and everything that a user does is accessed right from this main interface. But not just for the LMS, they also tied all the performance and talent management features into this, making it a real nice choice for both internal and external LMS solutions, especially if they're complicated. Growth Engineering, we mentioned before, out of the UK, they were actually a sales training company that needed a platform to deliver their accredited content, and that's how Growth Engineering LMS. So it was always about engaging sales forces, and salespeople are a notorious ratty lot since I come from them, and to get them to do any training is a tough thing to do, and so they built this all engaging social interface, and you can see everything tied together here from leaderboards to progress in courses to their news feed that's happening right inside to all the different groups that they belong to that they can tie. So real nice and pretty. They also use it from an extended enterprise standpoint, that if you're a channel partner, you still have a team of employees and you can access the team and their interactions with that. Because as a channel partner, just like the people that are providing the channel learning, you have the same goal of, at the end of the day, you want to sell more, so you want to keep track of your team. This is Digital Ignite again. I just love this feature. So what you can do in the LMSs now is down the left-hand side are modules, I guess, but it's not like an authoring tool where everything's all swarm-based. The new LMSs have these content assembly tools that allow you to bring in a SCO or a SCORM module or link out to a YouTube video or thread in a discussion. But instead of being a separate step, look how they did it here. So right when they bring in a video or any piece of content, they can have comments and threaded discussion right underneath that, interactive transcripts, polls about this content. So any old piece of content that might be on YouTube or a PowerPoint can have this level of interactivity wrapped around it for the people that are taking the course now or the people that are going to take the course a year from now. And so you get to add that whole social component on there. I really like that. Brave New Talent, a nice company out of London that moved to San Francisco. They dropped the LMS portion almost. They are social first and only, You can see they got learning streams and tools and discussions and sharing and dismissing that we saw, but they really have left behind almost all of the formal training and training assignments because they're focusing on the extended enterprise and of not necessarily formal training as much as engaging communities. Real nice up-and-coming company. This is Sabhas DNA. So granted, as I look at this, it's not the prettiest thing, but what they do from a measurement standpoint is they can track all the social interactions and then give you a map by group or user or team or any slice of the database or users that you want to look at, and it actually shows you the interactions among your team and allows you to draw a mental map. And then you can use this data, at least theoretically, to see the impact of your social networking and also the impact to the business or non-impact to the business. So I thought that was fairly neat. Another thing that they do is they've taken it to a mobile app where you can be crowdsourcing, where it's not just customer support, but it's anybody that has this app that you can even get notifications onto your phone if you sign up for stuff like that. And believe it or not, a lot of customers do this on their own dime just for the love of a particular tool or system. And so to leverage off that from a social standpoint is a real smart thing to do. So I told you I'd go a little bit late today, and it was nice not to rush and try to squeeze it in there. So thanks for sticking with me. Looks like we only lost one person this whole time, so either you're multitasking or hopefully you're finding this engaging, and please send me an email afterwards. But if I had to wrap it all up with a bow today, the voluntary extended enterprise users are just different than employees. There's a higher standard, there's a higher bar, and that bar is not just in the engaging learning technology, but in all aspects of building this community and making measurable impacts in people's lives or in your corporate business of some way. But if you can engage learners, and social learning is a prime engagement tool, but if you can engagement, it will equal success. And it's as simple as that. The bigger and more relevant your user group is, the more powerful it is. At Talented Learning, I'm trying to build the world's only and largest, most diverse group of people that touch extended enterprise in some format from a vendor or from a use standpoint. And the more relevant and larger that audience, the more relevant and larger Talented Learning will be, and we're just one of a million examples. But you have to define your measurable business case. If you can't say and define why you need it and what metric you're trying to change, guess what? You don't really need it, and you should pause and invest your money in other things right now. But if you can define that, then you have to go through that next layer of exercise of figuring out exactly what you need and using that as a litmus. Otherwise, you can spend the next 10 years trying to review these 600 vendors, as I can attest to only getting through 62 in 1 year. So last little piece of advice is build your networks using the third-party tools. You can start yesterday, and it's an easy way to do it without investing in an LMS at the existing time. And once you reach a critical point, being able to integrate that into your learning, it might be the nice soft landing way to approach learning technology if it seems like too big of a insurmountable step at first. And then finally, you need help, just ask. That's what we do. You're not going to find a more nerdy bunch here that knows the ins and the outs of the learning technology and has the practical experience of being on the selling side. So thanks much for tuning in on this 10 weeks. I tell you, I just felt like I lost 20 pounds here finishing up this series, as it's been an enlightening and harrowing experience coming up with 10 weeks of content. But thanks so much. I feel like we made some good progress here in defining the industry and helping all kinds of people out. If you have any comments or questions, you can go ahead and enter those in right now. You can join our blog. Topics like this is what we do every week. Follow me on Twitter at John Lay. I'm more than happy to link in with you and continue to build this network. If you go to LinkedIn and you search for Talented Learning Group, it's the only extended enterprise learning technology group that I know of that exists in the world, and please join that and feel free to collaborate and share inside of that community. And of course, you can send me an email at johnlay.com or johnlay@talentedlearning.com. Goodness. So thanks very much for your attention today. Do one last check here on the questions, and I look forward to hearing from you. Have a happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year with a whole series of new webinars.